Good morning, guys. Starting a bit early today, and I got that Bitcoin chart open here, right? And there's a lot of consolidation going on here yesterday, and then we had this random move all of a sudden in the crypto chat. I was mentioning it to Yash around 8 o'clock yesterday that a 10% move is coming, but I had no idea it was gonna come this fast. I had no idea it was gonna come this fast, but man, that was good. That was good. But Bitcoin is holding. It's been holding this long-term trend line on the weekly. If I go on the weekly, it's been holding this trend line, and let's see what happens, right? This could be a bottom or this could be a bear flag. We have no idea. There's still no direction here, right? No idea what's gonna happen here, right? Just like many people get so bared up when the huge red day happens in the market, and then on a green day, everyone seems to be bullish all of a sudden, right? Just remember the overall structure. Don't need to be a bull, don't need to be a bear, right? Don't have to be right all the time, don't have to be wrong all the time, but just look at the overall picture overall, right? And one thing that I do want to point out on SPX, that we've come down all the way from 4,800 all the way towards 4,000, right? In nice little breaks. We might get a relief rally here. I'll go over this after I got my SPX level. Some things that I do want to cover, right? And we'll go over those. I think people are a little bit confused. And if you have not read the Gamma report, I'll go over the Gamma report as well and give you guys the overview what's going to likely to be expected for the entire day. But before all that, I had some text, on my DM on Discord. I hope you guys are watching people that sent this DM in the last few days. There was more than one, actually about 6 or 7. That how do you know when the setup is AA plus, or AA plus? Or the best setup you can say, or how do you know when to go in with the right size if you have a small count? Now, many of you guys are confused, with this. First, let's do the simple basic math to understand. The most basic math first we'll do. Let's say if you have $10,000 in your account, all right? If you have $10,000 in your account, so let me just move this text here so you guys can see it. I'll make it a little bigger. If you guys have $10,000 in your account and you're starting off a position, let's say you have 1 or 2 positions, I don't know what it was. Let's say you started with $500 trade. For the first trade, let's say you go in with a $500 trade. Okay, we'll do some simple math here. Now on this $500 trade, let's say you end up maybe losing 200 bucks, right? Let's start with a loss, right? You lose $200 on this, right? So you're left with $300. Your cash balance now is 9,800. All right, your cash balance is 9,800. That's fine, right? No need to worry. But if you went heavy in this first trade, instead of 500, maybe you went in with $1,500, and you lost the same percentage, which will be $600. That's 6% of your account. One thing you need to understand, in the options world, people have taken a $10,000 to 10K to a million. They're taking it to 5 million, and people have actually took 10K to 50 million also. These are real stories. But what are the chances of that happening with millions of traders out there, right? If one does it, that's number one. You guys need to understand. A bank offers maybe 4 or 5% per annum, per yearly raise or interest on your income. All right. So in the options, people expect to double their money every week or every month. That's straight gambling. This is not the casino. Don't come here to gamble, right? Sometimes you will hit big trades. Sometimes your account will go up 100% in a week. But those things will happen on their own when you're just on the right side of the trade. For example, if you bought Baba last night, you'll probably be up 1,000% now on the options, right? But nobody knew that was coming. All right. Now $9,800. Let's say you make the next trade again, consistent size. 500 bucks on this trade. Maybe you make $300, right? Because when a good trade happens, our profits are usually bigger if you're picky with the trade. Your cash balance now stands at how much? 9,800 plus the 300, 10,100. So $100 net profits, right? $100 net profits. Now what happens here is with some people. Now let's say you continue with this math, things are going. Eventually your account comes to $12,000. Now, once your account's at $12,000, the biggest mistake people make is they start going in with $1,000 trades. And when the $1,000 trades are going in now, you've doubled your position sizing, your emotions get involved here. You lack discipline, and then all of a sudden this 1,000 goes to 0, you're back to 11,000. Now you will revenge trade, right? I'm just going with some of the psychological traits that happen with traders here. So if you're part of this, because based on the DMs that I got, I'm talking based on those, you will revenge trade, and you guys will come and say sorry to me in my DM that Ricky, sorry, I revenge trade. Why are you saying sorry to me? That's your money, your account, right? I just share my experience with you guys, what I've been through, and how I can help you get better. That's all, right? If you are going heavy revenge trading in your account, don't come and say sorry to me. Yes, I preach a lot of risk. I talk about a lot of risk management. Sometimes it gets hard for me to follow my own rules sometimes, but they're the right things to do. But overall, they help me. I follow as much as I can. If they make me last in the market, that's where it is, right? Now on this revenge trade, you're likely gonna maybe go in with $1,000 again just to double, so you can get back to 12,000, so you feel better. But you forget the fact that you're up 1,000 on your initial investment. So don't do these things, right? And so position sizing is the biggest key I can give you guys. Position sizing is the biggest key I can give you in this market, and patience. We even did an Instagram reel on this yesterday to let you guys know, right? So position sizing and patience needs to be consistent. Your position sizing until this 10K does not go to, if you have a 10K count, first thing, you don't have much experience trading, as simple as that, because if you're trading for a long time, your count will likely to be bigger, right? But with the 10K means you're a new trader, maybe you've been in the market for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe you're learning, all right? I'm 30 years old, but I've been in the market since I was almost 17 years old. 13 years of experience, a lot of ups and downs, and I blew up my account many times, I openly admit this, right? But obviously, I learned over time. I learned to be patient. Don't get greedy. So take this 10K to maybe 15K first with consistent sizing. And sometimes the best thing to do is, let's say if you start with a $500 position size and you're at 13,000, I would even go, I will decrease my position sizing maybe. You don't have to increase it, decrease it to 300 maybe, and take some risky bets which can pay off a lot, right? With high returns, for example. Right, like Baba yesterday, T was mentioning that, if it gaps up, $80 calls were $2, they were a little expensive, or else I think he would have bought it, or maybe he bought it, I have no idea. But today they'll be up 600% at the open, right? So all these things, you just learn as a trader. There's a lot of math involved, and position sizing and size, risk, that's the biggest thing I can give you guys here. That's the biggest tip I can give you. There's nothing more I can say on this, right? Now, next is the AA plus setups. What might they be? Right now, let's say something, double A plus setups. I'm just quickly gonna go here onto DKNG, right? On DKNG, we mentioned, me and Bucky were talking about this, and in the group, I actually sent the chart. I sent the chart based on the recent trend. Then look at DKNG right here on the 50 MA, how it's behaving, and then I compared one chart with this, right? This Etsy, right? It got very popular in our chat also, right? And as we were looking, a lot of people were playing it. Right, and I simply saw one thing, that hey, you know what? I pointed this out before it happened. This move on DKNG happened before it happened on Etsy. I'm like, you know what? I was talking to Bucky that, Etsy might do the same thing, and we might get a big pullback. Right? The market was weak. It gapped up from 100 points to 150 within a few days. The market sentiment was not good, and I actually got the short at 162. I caught the short from 162 to 140. I wrote it, and Bucky nailed, you guys all know in the group, when he held it, he nailed it. LB also played this name, he nailed it, right? So for me, this would be an A plus setup with given the market sentiment, this reversal right underneath the 50 MA, a huge gap, and then we know that there's FOMC coming up after 2 weeks. There's so much going on in the market, this name can probably take a little dip. Something like this can happen. Now DKNG, Etsy have nothing to do with each other. These are just the technicals that I saw. I'm very good at looking at charts. Sometimes I see a chart, I see another chart right away. That what my a similar chart. So this point could have been a great thing, and all you had to do was just buy a small put here, and that $500 of the puts actually went to 25, 30 bucks on Etsy, right? Now I'm not saying you were gonna hold it for that long, for 500. Maybe you'd sell it at 700, 800. I don't know, right? But this will be one A plus setup. Now yesterday on SPX, for example, talking about the setups, those of you guys that were on voice chat, I waited the entire day for my play to happen. Now let's see how I managed that play yesterday, why I got out of break even. I waited for my 4250 zone all day. Now first, initially I was waiting at around this time. If 4250 happened around this time, I would have had more time, around this $11 or 12 around this area. If I had my 4250 plus, I would have taken a short here, right? And I would have held on to for the next 1-2 hours, depending on or whenever I got the move. Why? Because I have all this time in the market. I had this entire time in the market until 3 o'clock. I got until 4 for me to manage. But at the end of the day, when I took my short, I did not get it. And then another thing, I was hoping for 4250, but when I saw that it's knocking on the resistance too many times, that this time if it actually gets through 4250, I mentioned this in the chat, this is likely that's probably going to hit 42.60. And then I saw T, he bought SPX calls, so I'm not going to go against him right away because he must have seen something. He's an experienced trader. So that made me even delay my process, which was a good hint because he was damn on point on this absolute rip. So that helped me, right? And so we got that 42.60 target. The only thing is I did not have enough time here after, but I knew one thing, that this resistance won't be too easy to get through. Either they stall at 42.60, and even if they do get through 42.60, there's a good chance they're going to come back and retest 42.60 and let me out break even. And what happened? We did not get the big dip. We got that rip initially. My entry was $2.30, I believe, right? But it allowed me on this next dip to break out at break even or maybe take the 5% profits, right? So I was able to manage my trade. Forget the profits, but I managed my trade. I got out of break even. That was the only trade for me for the entire day, and that's fine. Right, today a new day, new setup, and things will happen. Some of you guys, what happens is you guys try to catch trades here in between, right? You guys try to guess. Me personally, unless it's a very strong level, it's a different story. But when playing indices, this is an example I'm giving you guys how I manage my trades, how I look for trades. If I'm looking for SPX, I will, right now, given the sentiment, these are the numbers that I have in my mind: 4,000, 4,050, 4,100, 4,150, 4,200, 4,250, 4,300. I'm not making my life complicated by going in with, oh, I'm gonna call 4281 to the exact point. That's great. Those numbers are there. Yes, I also know those numbers, but sometimes it's just good to keep the whole numbers because these whole numbers work better than any other number in between, right? Unless you're really micromanaging it, you're going on the 1 minute time frames, you're looking at the numbers in between, you'll get your areas. But these are the whole numbers that I play around mostly, 5-10 points up and down, that's fine. I don't try to make my life too complicated about looking at the exact numbers. On Gamma Report, yes, I will look at the volatility triggers. Yes, I will look at the most strikes open with the most options. That's a different story. On SPY, I will go more into dots, right? Because on SPY is better. But on SPX, the whole numbers are usually the best resistance and support levels. That's how they're built, all right? And for today, for example, 43.50 will be my first short scalp. If before FOMC, not after. After FOMC, if we're trading at 43.50, I'm probably going to buy calls. So scenarios will change. You need to understand this, right? So right now, SPX is going to open around 4,300. By any chance we rip 50 points before FOMC, I will take a short. I promise you guys. At 43.50, I will take a short scalp, and it's likely going to work. And if it does not work, I know that from 43.50, even if it rips 10-15 points, it's probably going to come back, give me my break even, I can get out. All right, nothing goes up straight, nothing goes down straight. So these are some of the scalping tips I can share with you guys. All right, now A+ setups in this market is very hard to figure out the A+ setups, right? I mean, so it's very tricky. And VIX above 27, I normally don't recommend calls, just personally. I could be wrong on this, but above 27, I don't recommend calls. But VIX has been cooling down a little bit, and today on FOMC, if the market, now Darsh made a good comment. How do you know when the bear market rally is over? How do you know? I don't know. I don't have the answer for that, right? But I do know, because we're down so much, we're in the bear market territory, right? So that rally happening is likely to be a bear market rally. But I think once certain levels are achieved or held, we get the sense when there's call flow coming in, call buying coming in, right? Then we have the sense that, okay, we're returning out of the zone, right? The correction, we're over, right? So it depends. I think that, there's a 5% correction, there's a 10%, there's 15%, and once those percentages, we're out of those categories, I think that's when the bear market rally or bear market is over, and now the shift changes right towards the bullishness. So that will be my answer. But based on this now on SPX, if you guys go over the Gamma Report today, there's few things. 4,300 is the volatility trigger level, and we're at 4,300. If you don't know what volatility trigger level is, I highly recommend that you go over the spot gamma. So if I go on pre-market just to confirm my level one more time, 4,300 is a volatility trigger, yes. And now we have the SPY levels also, those that trade SPY, right? Volatility trigger level basically means the hedges or the people, market makers, under 4,300, they will remain bearish, that okay. But if we hold above 4,300, like to the upside, their scenarios will change, they will flip their switch, they will be looking at upside. All right, so that's how I look at the volatility trigger level. But today we're opening right around it, so that's going to be a huge support and resistance. Underneath, downside, above, bullishness. But in the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's going to be very hard to say what's going to happen. I have no idea. All right, and so SPX, just keep an eye on it. We're down a lot. To the upside, I expect this zone, if we do reach upside, this is the zone right here, 43, 4400, right? This is the zone. To the downside, if I go on the weekly, my scenario is still the same. I don't change, I don't become a bull bearer or anything like this. That's not me, right? My scenario remains the same. In the coming months, this zone will be approached, right? This zone will be approached. There's no doubt. I'm very confident. When does it happen? In March, April, June, July, August? I have no idea. But I will know once the setup is there that this zone is going to come, and I will nail that downside again. But for now, don't be stubborn. On the weekly, we came down in the straight pattern. There's a little falling wedge kind of pattern forming here. There's a good chance that we can see 4,400, 4,500. 4,400 may happen today based on FOMC, what they say on the rate hikes. On 25, I think the market rallies. On 50, it'll be a little iffy. Let's see what the market does. I have no idea. And this week, most of the puts are expiring. Right, most of the, I think almost 1/3 of the puts are expiring, which may add fuel to the fire, right? Fuel to the fire into a rally or a relief rally, whatever you want to call it, that the market might go higher. All right, so keep that in mind. And if I go on Dow, right, we had 4 weeks of, no, not this, DJI, yeah. So we had almost 5 weeks where we were red. I think this was also red week, the opening and green. This week we might get the little upside. All right. Dow very toppy action, and some stocks in Dow can run a lot. Just keep that in mind. It has a long way to go, right? And then obviously we have NQ, Nasdaq, same thing as S&P, similar action. This has almost close to 15,000 from here that it can rally towards. I'm looking at the 50 MA guys. They're very accurate usually, so we can definitely rally towards the 50 MA, get rejected, come back in the coming future, down and later on, right? And any questions, just type them in. How do you know what kind of stocks you want, like bank, tech, any? Okay, bank, tech, you just gotta know this. When you watch the markets, I guess you just gotta know where the money is going. If the financial sector is completely red and tech is ripping, it's clear that, you know, the focus, if you're playing upside, the focus should be on tech. And as soon as you see that maybe financials have given up a lot, they want to come back up, tech's making a top reaction, that's how you switch. But those, we get the sentiments intraday and we play based on that, right? Not really the answer that you might be looking for that how do you know when the money is being shifted. That you just look at it, like for example, if I was to split this SPX and XLF, right? So if I go on the weekly chart on XLF also, it's a little different, not the same, not exactly the same, a bit different, right? S&P has been coming down for a lot longer than XLF has, right? So XLF is still holding here, and now let's see what happens. And again, the only thing I can tell you guys here on the weekly, just by looking at it, weekly 50 MAs will be tagged, I think, to the upside. All right, so just keep that in mind. And today to the downside also, one thing I do want to say, so far I just spoke about the upside. The downside is 4,000 today maybe, or 4,050. All right, to the downside, if the market reacts negatively to the Fed, there will be a huge red day. But does that happen? I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Fed stays in line and we might see 4,400. So 4,300 we're opening, 4,350, we'll see what happens. China names, just going to go over something. Why is China up so much, right? Some of you guys are lazy, you guys don't put the work in. And you have no idea. You're looking at the China gap up, but you guys don't know why the China gapped up, right? That's a big gap up. There has to be something behind the reasoning. So, Chinese government, right? I write my notes down for those that don't know. Chinese government, they said they're going to support their markets and bring more economic growth, all right? And then they said they're going to ease on their regulatory crackdowns. And now in the last 1 year, if you've been with us, or for the last 16 months, China has been up the internet companies' ass, right? They've been up them, like making their life so difficult. And then obviously, North Americans we did not want to risk. Why would we invest when their own government's killing their own markets? That was it. But now they finally said that, we're gonna stop. We're gonna make it easy for you guys, all right? And they're gonna bring in the policies which are gonna benefit their markets, all right? And obviously the end of crackdown. And those are big positive news that I think the market took in good. So a huge gap up on China. Now, does that mean you should go long China right now? Hell no, not in this market, right? So there's a long way to go for BABA. It needs to get the first level it needs to reclaim is right here. There's 120 zone, 120 plus zone reclaim. We see the 50 MA hold. Gotta give it some weeks, some months, and we see how it goes, and then we see it. The big gap up move already happened, but can it run all day today? I think Baba can probably see 100 today. Right? It can actually run 10 points, and if the FOMC, the market rallies, Chinese names will rally, because usually when there's a gap and go, Chinese names gap and go. I'm just gonna show you guys something from the past. Those of you that don't know, when they gap and go, I'll go on the daily, and they just go. They don't stop, right? The gap and go, just like there are gap downs and up. Same thing happens when they go up. They have some nice gap ups and they just keep going. They have some crazy rallies I've seen in the past. I remember I caught this rally in Baba sometime back last year. I caught this rally, right? I bought Baba here and I caught the entire gap up move. It was a huge payout. So sometimes when Baba runs and they have these news and Chinese names, they just gap up and go. They keep gapping up and they keep going, right? So that's how the Chinese names work. Why? Because they also trade in HK in Hong Kong. All right. So there's gap up on Baba. Does it hold? It probably holds or goes sideways, but if more positive news come out tomorrow, it's going to keep on gapping up. It might even go 120 this week. It's a possibility. That's how Chinese names move up and down. It's crazy, right? Same with Baidu. Huge down, and now let's see if it can make a reversal, and then these names will be in play. There's a lot of volatility in these names, and I think you can catch some good moves. You don't have to trade options. Even if you trade equities, they can move. People with small accounts in this market, when VIX is high, you have to be very careful. You have to be very patient. Don't be looking for trades every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes. We're not in a casino. We're not in Las Vegas. Let the trade come to you. Maybe it takes 1 day, maybe it takes 2 days, maybe it takes a week for the trade to come to you. You gotta sit on your ass. Trust me, and every time I've practiced patience, it's only paid off. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. And apart from this, I guess we'll do a proper session later on, and a good session maybe sometime this week on account management, where I'll go in more depth and more analysis, where I can answer your questions if you guys have. So some of you guys that message, if you're listening, Nick, if you're listening, I hope this helps. It's not a full session obviously, but just keep these things in mind, and then we see what happens. All right, and guys, look at the weekly and monthly charts always. Always zoom out when in doubt. All right. For example, if I was to go on Baba monthly, I'm just gonna point something out. If I go on Baba monthly, I'll remove my drawings. Right, a huge support zone here is not going to be broken down easily, and Baba has come down a lot. And if Chinese names don't get delisted, nothing happens, these names can obviously rip back to highs to 120 and whatnot, right? But again, the risk is there. If tomorrow they get delisted or anything like that happens, they will be sold off. Baba was sold off from 300 all the way towards 70 bucks. There's still something wrong. This is not just the Chinese government alone. There is something wrong. We'll find out in the coming months what was wrong. I personally don't know yet, right? Or does that delisting actually happen and they get the people stuck up here again and then sell off again? Who knows what's going to happen? So be careful with what you play. Take the risk that you can afford to take. All right. But with this, I think I'll finish it, guys. And any other questions, just ask me in the chat. I'm happy to go over, and we'll see you guys on voice chat. Our premium chat is open all week.